the original Season 4, Episode 12, Voodoo Child. This is a really good episode leading up to the season finale, which unfortunately is only next week. Even though they don't, I'm pretty sure in the promo they don't actually say it's the season finale, but the season finale is the next episode, so we are almost done with this season, unfortunately. I feel like a lot of the summer shows have been super short. The Originals has been 13 episodes, the 100 was 13 episodes. I think the same with iZombie, that's only ending in like 2 or 3 weeks, and it's really weird, like a lot of the shows that I could have sworn they went beyond 13 episodes are having these really short seasons, so I don't know what that really means. I know the Originals has been renewed, so maybe it's just the writers, they want to tell smaller, more succinct stories, or, that's just what they have planned, especially going into kind of crossing the Originals over with what they have left over from the Vampire Diaries, because I know some stuff is happening there next season, but it's interesting. We're almost at the end, and this is definitely a great episode. Vincent finally makes his return. Sophia actually makes her return as well, and we see everyone kind of working together in this episode, and it was really good. We have, of course, the Hollow, who they officially call Inadu. I'm sure they mentioned her name like once before, but I really don't remember them ever saying her name like at all. I'm sure they did it during the actual flashback episode, but I kind of don't know. I don't really remember them saying it during that episode. And I'm sure they did, but like I said, this episode they just kept saying everybody was calling her by her actual name. So it's like Inadu was said like almost 10 times in this episode. It's like, that's weird, because they're always like, it's the Hollow, but every time they do it in this episode, they do say the Hollow a couple times, but they typically actually call her by her real name. So that really shocked me, because I was like, they never did that any other time, and they were literally dealing with her physically in some of the other episodes. She was just like a spirit in this one, so it was kind of weird. But it was definitely awesome. Of course, we have Inadu having taken over Hope, and that's like the big issue for the whole episode. Everyone's kind of thinking from the very beginning, it's like everything's great, we can move on with our lives, how are things about to play out? And as we have basically our original characters going to talk to Marcel about staying within the city, that's when Marcel wakes Sophia up, and she's like, I know that the Hollow is still alive, I can still feel her. So that's when things really start kicking off, because of course earlier than that, we already had Vincent doing something, which gets explained a little bit later on, which is actually him trying to talk with Inadu's, I believe it was her mother, it was either her mother or grandmother, and he ends up having the book stolen from him by acolytes, and of course that leads to like just a whole big disaster where it's like, okay, well the book is the only way we can get the answer to stop her, but of course we no longer have the book, so I need you guys to go off. Marcel, you stay with me. In case they don't get the book, I'll use, your ability to channel your magic so that I can boost mine and then actually talk to the grandmother. And then that, of course, doesn't end up working, so it's like, alright, I have to be dead. And then, of course, they do exactly what I thought they were going to do, which was, it's normal, and it's normal, and it's normal. And then, surprise, surprise, some acolytes come in as the time starts ticking down, and he ends up saving, like at the last second, is when he actually injects him, and of course, Vincent ends up waking up. I was like, I figured they were going to do that. We do see Sophia come in at like the last second. She takes on that final witch, which really surprised me. It was the thing that they constantly did this whole episode, which kind of made no sense. But like the acolytes, it's kind of weird. I guess not every acolyte is a witch like I thought, because when Marcel gets surrounded, I was like, he's not about to win this. Like, it's a bunch of effing witches. Like, I thought everyone that was an acolyte was a witch, and I guess I was severely wrong about that, because the same thing happens even when Vincent's fighting. He beats up 2 of the guys, and then the third person is the one that basically knocks them out. And I was like, okay, that seemed weird to me. And the same thing happened with Marcel when he gets surrounded. It's like he's fighting like 30 people. There's a bunch of hand-to-hand stuff. He's pushing people and snapping necks and stuff. And then one woman finally comes in with magic, and I was like, that is so crazy to me. Like, they know who they're dealing with. Why don't they just send one magical person? And the same thing with Klaus and Elijah, where they go to where Elijah actually died at. I was like, what in the world is going on? Like, why would they just stroll on in here? Because once again, I assumed everyone in there knew magic, and I guess none of them did, because they were just killing people and nobody was fighting back. So I was like, I guess I learned something this episode, because I legitimately thought every single person that was an acolyte knew magic. Like, that's just what I assumed this whole time. I was like, that is clearly not the case anymore, like I thought it was, because there were a ton of people that kept dying. I kept thinking, like, they're just walking into stuff like idiots, and it's like, oh, none of these people actually have magical powers. They just chant. Like, they were chanting over the book. I guess that wasn't really a spell. They were just chanting. So I was like, I guess none of these people have powers. It really surprised me going through this. I was like, that's so weird. I assumed everyone had, the ability to use spells. At least most of the people, if not every single person. I really thought it was everyone, but I was like, at least most of the people. And it's almost like 1/3 of the actual acolytes even have, magical abilities. So I was really shocked when, we go through basically all the action sequences. Only one witch, or not even one witch, actually ends up showing up. And I was like, oh, I guess I just had it wrong this whole time. Thought everybody was a witch. And like, when I look back on it, it's like, yeah, there were other parts where there are acolytes that got beat up really fast too. But like the first time it happened, like Vincent was there. So it was like, I was like, yeah, he used his magic, he, dispelled them and then, got them. But it didn't really occur to me until this episode. Like, yes, not every acolyte has magic. So heroes are going through, or villains, it's still kind of muddy with these characters. But everyone goes through. Basically, they succeed continuously. But the one thing that does not work out too well is them actually saving Hope. That was like the entire point of this episode. And it pretty much fails. Like, it does fail. It's not even pretty much. It completely fails. Like, they go through, and it's like, alright, Vincent gets the spell. Elijah and Klaus go for the book. They actually get the book. Haley and Freya are working to actually free Hope because they realize, they're like the first ones to realize that something's off. So they're trying to free her. And of course that ends up failing. Like, it was just a huge disaster. If I'm being totally honest, it was just one disaster after another. Because it starts off kind of weird. It's like, alright, obviously, they realize something's off with Hope. And then things start to kick in with Rebecca. She's the first one who's taken down, and she's gone like the rest of the episode. It's like, nothing can take us down. And then, of course, Inadu's like, well, there is one thing. And she just pulls a spike out of the wall, hits Rebecca. She's down for the rest of the freaking episode. And then it goes to Haley and Freya. And it's like, alright, well, we need to figure out what's going on here. And of course, Haley's trying to get something to work, but it's like, clearly she knows I'm up to something. So she kind of just reveals, I want my daughter back. Everyone starts to come together. It's like, we got a plan. We know how to do this. We got the book. We can, stall her for long enough. And it's fine. They go to the house. And basically after that, it was just like, I'm going to destroy every single person at a time. Like, I think it started with Haley, like, just before everyone else came back. So she gets impaled, like, just impaled to the gate. I was like, alright, well, that killed her for a little bit of time with her being a hybrid. I had to look this up because I was like, I'm pretty sure she can still die, but I don't think she can die from a wooden stake. I really can't remember. I know she's a hybrid now, so I don't think that counts as, like, her heart has to actually be ripped out. But she gets impaled to the gate. It's like, alright, everybody comes in. We got the plan. We're ready to go. First person taken out is Sophia. I thought she got killed because I thought what Inadu was doing was actually like pulling her heart out, but she was just making her like bleed internally. So she does like a Mortal Kombat Shang Tsung sort of thing, and it's just like, she drops her and that's pretty much it there. Of course, Elijah goes to check on Haley. They've been having their issues the whole episode because Haley's big thing after the last one is, what do I do with my daughter? I need to get her away from everything that's happening, and I don't know if I can be with Elijah because I don't want my daughter to see that I'm okay with the darker side of him. Even though she is, she doesn't want her daughter to be that way and kind of gravitate towards people who may or may not be really dark on the inside. So it was their whole issue, but of course they still care for each other, and Elijah goes to her. Here comes Inadu. Same thing, she does like the Shang Tsung move. Sorry if that reference doesn't apply to you, but it's Mortal Kombat. And so she does the move and she, snaps his spine or kind of rips his heart out. I don't even know, but it was just cool. Every time she did it, it just seemed insanely intense for everybody because they were just doing this every time and then they would just collapse. So takes him down. Then it comes to Marcel and she does the exact same thing and it's just like, gotcha, and you're done. So everyone gets wiped out. The only two people left are Vincent and Klaus. And Klaus is basically in like the astral plane trying to help Hope. So that's like the only thing. Like, he's there to get through to her to keep her fighting as everyone else goes to take on Inadu. And so it gets down to Vincent and it's like, holy crap, they're actually about to do it. And I was really curious. I'm like, I know this is going into the season finale, so what's about to happen? Because I thought what happened when we see the scene where after they knock out Hope and the smoke leaves her body, I thought she left Hope's body and it was like, oh crap, is she about to go back to possess Sophia again? And then she just takes off. And that doesn't end up happening. She still stays within Hope. And when she gets captured, I was like, well, how is this about to play out? Because it seems like everything's working. Vincent has, the spell. He's got the book. They have her trapped. Everything's great. And then it's not so great because she's still able to break through, sends him backwards, knocks him unconscious. The book is left on the ground. She scorches it, goes back to Hope's body. And that's it. She takes off and everyone loses. Like, the whole thing, everything they went through, all the little victories, ultimately came down to an extreme loss because now they don't even have the book. And then we find out, it was a great way to end the episode going into the finale, but it's like, in order to help Hope, you guys are going to have to give up always and forever. And I don't know how in the world this is supposed to play out, but they have to separate the power of the Hollow into the originals. And that's insane. And Vincent mentions that he needs 4, so that, he specifically says like he needs 4 originals. So Freya, of course, doesn't count into that. So we're going to have Klaus, Elijah, Rebecca, and I would assume they'd have to contact Cole to come back, which, that probably wouldn't be too bad for him with, him leaving off to go with Davina. But I would assume he's the only other person, unless they utilize Marcel, which I wouldn't be surprised if that was what they do, where it's like, we can't seem to get a hold of Cole. Check it out, Marcel is just as powerful as us, more powerful, if you're not Klaus. So I'm sure that's how it'll end up playing out, where he ends up being one of the people. So he's going to probably be like, hey, we already have these terms anyway, I'm going to stay here, you guys go off and do whatever you need to do. But it was a very interesting promo for the finale. We have, the ending with Hope in front of like the big symbol, is like actually etched out in gold and everything. I thought that was really cool. But she's got all her acolytes in this church and everything, and they all bow down to her. And who knows where we're headed, because it's like, all right, well, she's possessing, even the guy says, like, possibly the most powerful witch the world has ever known. And I don't know, they have to find some way to take her out of Hope's body and separate the power of Inadu into 4 different beings. And I can't wait to see how that plays out. I think that's a great way to go into the next season, because it makes me wonder if we're going to get another time skip, or how in the world that's supposed to play out. It's hard to say, but it was very interesting. It was definitely interesting, and I'm excited to see what we get for this finale, because that's insane. They're like officially splitting up the characters almost permanently. Like, of course they can call and talk, but they can't be near each other, or the power will basically fuse together from within their bodies. I would assume, I'm just speculating. But it was a great way to end the episode, and I'm very excited for this finale. Of course, would love to know what you guys thought about this episode, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts, and of course, with us going into the finale, and especially the way they teased it, I would love to know your theories on how in the world this season is about to end. Like, if they split the power between 4 different originals, what does that mean for the rest of the series? Because I would assume at some point they have to find some sort of spell that allows for them to come back together without basically reawakening the Hollow. But who knows? It would be interesting to see how this transfers into the next season and what they do with that. But maybe that's why we're getting some of the characters from the Vampire Diaries coming over into the originals now. So I don't know, maybe we'll get to see some more of that. I would love to see how that plays out, but I think that could factor into some of the characters kind of venturing back towards Mystic Falls, one in particular, that being Klaus. But it's just very interesting. It's like, alright, if they split them up, kind of 4 corners sort of thing, who do we focus on? We have quite a few main characters. Who stays in New Orleans? Does everyone leave? Is Freya like the one person, her and Keelan, they just jumped from sibling to sibling, like, hey, came to visit, and that's all they got? And, well, I guess Haley too, because she wouldn't have the power within her. So they're kind of just traveling from family member to family member, but it'll be crazy. It'll be interesting to see. I feel like someone might die. I was worried about that in this episode. I thought they might kill Freya, because she saved Keelan, and I was like, oh, Freya. I just don't know. I don't want anyone to get killed off, but I said that from the beginning. I was like, as soon as they got together, I was like, something's going to happen. Like, somebody's about to get hurt. So I hope that doesn't happen with either of their characters, but I don't know. Like, especially after what happened in the last season with Joshua, it's like, this is it. This is like the perfect happy ending. Dead. So I don't know if we should expect that again. I hope not. I really hope they don't do that two years in a row. But I am excited for this finale. Like I said, of course, we'd love to know what you guys thought about this episode, and I definitely want to know your theories, and just what you guys want to see in general, even outside of your theories, just what do you guys want to see for this finale. So please put your comments down in the comment section below, and of course, thanks for watching.